Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining my meeting today. Today, I'm going to share with you a very, very interesting topic and very scientific too. So the title is Unconscious Images and Karma. It is an article written by Dr. Kawada in Japan. So let me begin. How is karma created? Karma is in the subconscious, specifically in the unconscious part of the subconscious. The subconscious is all our dormant potential. Happiness and unhappiness arise from there. All our images of life are collected there. It is a broad and expansive, EXPANSIVE place. All our past is packed in there, everything. All the images from our previous lives are stored there. All our experiences, feelings, sounds, everything. They are in our life and in our brain cells. Now, in Buddhist terms, this storehouse is called Alaya Vijnana, which is the eighth sense. And this storehouse stores all our mental processes in our multiple lifetime. Everything from the moment you were born, from where you were in the womb, all the sounds such as your mother's singing and experiences around you are images stored in the unconscious part of your subconscious. This also includes the images stored by your ancestors thousands of years ago. These images and experiences are carried into yourself. It is your inheritance. It continues on into your offspring. These images become your life, and they are what you are now experiencing. For example, if you tend to get into car accidents, you can naturally assume that your ancestors were prone to accidents as well. Likewise, if you enjoy longevity, many of your ancestors also experienced longevity. Or if illness runs in your family, this will probably occur in your life. This is family karma, and it is stored in your subconscious. Well, in science, this is called genetic. Some of the illnesses are genetic. This is family karma, and it is stored in your subconscious. Because of the connectedness of you and your family, you share this karma with them. When you chant to the Gohonzen, you are changing not just your karma, but your whole family's karma at the same time. When one person changes, the whole family can change. Because you carry these images, you carry the same problems. Illness, the way you die, poor finances, bad relationships, etc. Unless you change these images, they persist in your life and in that of your offspring. These images come out even if you aren't conscious of them. You are not deciding, but the unconscious image is in control. Who you meet, what you do, when you die, if you get sick, etc. These are all results of the images you carry. All these unconscious images have led you to where you are right now. The scientific community is just starting to recognize this. Your unconscious images are your karma. The right side of your brain has a huge impact on how we alter these images. Appreciation has a huge impact on how we alter that image. Using the word thank you has an enormous impact on changing karma. The right side of the brain is happy to hear the words thank you and responds accordingly. The words Nam Myoho Renge Kyo in Indian Sanskrit are translated as thank you so much. So then, what is the correct way to pray? It is not, please, let this happen to me. It is not begging and not asking for anything. But because we are saying thank you so much, whenever we recite Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, we should always be chanting with appreciation. Our minds and emotions tend to match our words. The most basic human feeling or emotion is gratitude. It is first emotion we learn as an infant. Beyond the subconscious and unconscious is a very joyful life condition called Buddhahood. I was taught by some Japanese members, now it's me talking now, sharing my experiences. I was taught by some Japanese members to thank the Gohonzon in advance for having our wishes come true. Like if you chant for a house, you thank the Gohonzon. Thank the Gohonzon for having this house now. And this is a faster way to achieve your goals. When we use the right side of our brain, it is much easier to chant. We find that we can chant longer using the imagination side of our brain. You have to appreciate everything in your life, including everything from your past. You need to make a conscious effort to recall as much as you can from your past and appreciate it. Even the things that you don't think you can appreciate, you have to find gratitude for them. Now it's me talking now. Talking about my own experience, I think I told you many times about the dental practice that I have in Australia. And we were facing the danger of having to close down because of a competitor who were in the same premises. And because of that, he forced us into doing a lot of things and a lot of chanting. And because of that, our business prospered 30%, 40% to 100%. So it was painful. It was a painful experience at that time for me because I have to work day and night to promote the business. But then in the end, I was able to sell the business at a very high price to this competitor. So looking back, I do appreciate. Without this process, I would not work so hard to promote the business. So it's because of this negative force that drove me to do better and better. So now looking back, I do appreciate what had happened to me then, although it was very painful, I have to tell you. Okay, let me go on. Then you have to appreciate your current circumstances as well. Even if you are in the midst of a huge obstacle, such as cancer, financial ruin, a divorce, whatever the situation, you have to appreciate it. You have to thank the Gohonzon, which is your own life, for giving you this problem, because this is your chance to change negative karma into fortune. So what is the correct way to chant when you have a problem? You have to chant with the spirit of thank you so much for giving me this problem. Because of this, I can change my negative karma and that of my families. Pray sincerely from the bottom of your heart to appreciate your present circumstances. Because of this, you can disconnect or alter your family karma. You break it and begin to project a new image. You should also set a specific date that you will no longer have this problem. Dr. Kawada treated 14 people with stage 4 cancer. Some were not even SGI members. One even had to be brought in on a stretcher. All these people had been given up by their doctors. All 14 people joined the SGI. They all learned to chant following this guidance of using the right side of your brain to project an image of no cancer in their bodies. In the US, last-stage cancer patients are encouraged to draw a white cell eating a cancer cell. Though this has shown to help, practicing Buddhism has an even bigger impact. In 2 months, the person on the stretcher overcame their cancer. Then his doctor joined in the chanting, and eventually all 14 people overcame their cancer. Now, talking about me, I have read a book and I was taught very early in the stage to draw a picture in your mind on the goal that you want to achieve. Say if you want to be a manager, try to imagine yourself sitting in an office with the manager title and then acting as a manager. So your image will also help you achieve your goal. All right. Let me go on. You can change any illness, even allergies and skin rashes, etc. If you are in an abusive relationship, you can create a new and positive image, and it will change the relationship because you are connected to that person even on a subconscious level. Your unconsciousness is linked to another person's unconsciousness, which is Buddhahood to Buddhahood. It doesn't matter if they chant or not. They will change. Now again, the experience I shared with everybody, the reason why I first chanted was because I was not able to get money from my client. And I chanted, and in 4 days my client paid me. Now I didn't understand how it worked and why it worked. So I asked my senior member, and she said, when you chant, you are communicating with your client on a Buddhahood to Buddhahood level. And this will bring forth your client's compassion and sense of responsibility, and then she will pay you. And also one more thing I want to share with you is, when you talk to somebody and you enter into an argument, like your family member or whatever, stop the argument. Just chant. Just chant. Because by chanting, you bring forth your Buddhahood, and your Buddhahood can bring forth the other person's Buddhahood. And then they will be easier, they will understand you easily. And then your arguments will be solved because you're communicating on a Buddhahood to Buddhahood level. Let me go on. Whoever you have a problem with, you need to chant for them to help them change their subconscious image, like me and my client. You have to work on it over and over, and eventually your image will be projected by them as well. This is really the truth. You can impact the images for your entire family. You have to use the right side of your brain to do this. That is the purpose and the function of the right side of the brain. So, use it. You should write a diary. Not a diary of what happened to you today, but how you want your life to unfold for the next 10, 20, 30 years. Now, me talking again. When I worked for a multinational pharmaceutical company, they always have a long-term planning, 5-year term, 10-year term, as to how they see their business. So let's also write out our long-term plan as to what you want your life to be in 5 years, in 10 years, and then chant to achieve this plan. If you do, your life will change. You can literally write your own destiny. The next topic I want to share with you is a guidance given by a senior member in Japan. Let me start. Gongyo is directly related to your life. There are 3 things directly relate to sustaining life. 1 is to eat and rest. It is important to consume nutrients and to get adequate sleep. These two are easy to understand, and everyone does them. You don't quit eating or sleeping because you are unhappy with someone. But when it comes to doing Gongyo, there are those who quit doing their prayers easily. It is because they do not realize that Gongyo and Daimoku are directly related to sustaining their life. You can improve your destiny by chanting Daimoku. But if you don't, your karma will further deteriorate without chanting. If you do not chant, your destiny will revert back to your former bad karma. It is like reverting back to your former state of having a weak intestinal system or back to poverty. Now, it's me again, sharing. Once a member asked me, it was only lately, a member asked me if she will be punished if she abandoned the Gohonsen. My answer to her was, the Gohonsen doesn't punish anyone because the Gohonsen is yourself. However, if you abandon the Gohonsen, you are abandoning your most valuable treasure, that is, your Buddhahood, which includes wisdom, courage, life force, fortune, happiness, etc. As a result, you will no longer enjoy the benefits you get from chanting, and your situation will become worse and worse. It is you that you are punishing, yourself, not the Gohonsen. Okay, let me go on. These types of changes are not easily, immediately recognized if you do not chant. This is why people get lazy with their daily Gongyo and Daimoku, because they don't realize their life will deteriorate if you do not do so. You must feel that it gives you the greatest pleasure to do Gongyo and Daimoku. There is a phrase in the Gosho that emphasizes that Nam-myoho Renge Kyo is the greatest of all joys. To get married in your wedding, to you, is a joyous thing. But Nam-myoho Renge Kyo is a greater joy. To save millions of dollars may make you happy, but Nam-myoho Renge Kyo is even more enriching. To finally renovate your home after many years of waiting may bring you joy, but chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo is better than that. Finally, getting a child after many attempts may be a joyous occasion, but Nam-myoho Renge Kyo is more joyous than that. Now again, to give you my own example, after my daughter was born, 10 years later, I wanted to have a son. And at that time, I was not able to conceive because of a lot of reasons. And then I tried. I didn't chant at that time. I was not being taught to chant at that time. But I tried lots and lots of methods. Western doctors, Chinese doctors, acupuncture, everything. And then finally, and Chinese medicine. And finally, I got pregnant. And I gave birth to my son, Kevin. I had so much joy when he was born. I was so happy. But this happiness did not last long, because 1 month after he was born, when we were having a huge celebration, I found that my ex-husband owed the bank $1 million. So I was brought to hell at that time. So this happiness didn't last long. Okay, let me go on. Finally, getting a child after many attempts may be a joyous occasion, like me. But Nam-myoho Renge Kyo is more joyous than that. Look into your hearts to see if you are chanting with this type of gratitude. Are you receiving 100% of the benefits from your chanting? I feel that most of you are just receiving 10 to 15% of what you would be receiving. With this type of condition, you will lose to obstacles and deep karma. Why do you receive benefits when you chant to the Gohonsen? And why do you continue to chant? If you chant only to overcome a specific illness, will it only cure that illness? If you chant for the success of your business, will you only become successful in business? It is not such a limited practice. By chanting to the Gohonzon, we can elevate our life to the highest level, equal to the Gohonzon, which is Buddhahood. There is a passage in the Gospel, hoping to make all persons equal to the world, equal to me, without any distinction between us. You should chant with deep gratitude to the Gohonzon for bringing forth the same condition as the Gohonzon. As you continue chanting, you yourself will embody Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. There is another quotation from the Gosho. Shakyamuni Buddha, who attended in enlightenment and countless kalpas ago, the Lotus Sutra that leads all people to Buddhahood, and we ordinary human beings are in no way different or separate from one another. That is, we are all Buddhas. To chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo with this realization is to inherit the ultimate law of life and death. If you doubt whether this Gosho is true or not, you are already separated from your Gohonzon. Because you think there is a difference, your connection is weak. Therefore, your benefits are diminished. But how can we manifest the Buddhahood in our life? We can bring forth by just vocalizing Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. You may see cherry blossoms and feel how beautiful it is. You may see a full moon and enjoy the moonlight. You may see a cockroach and you feel disgusted. By seeing these things, you feel these type of life conditions. You may be moved by hearing beautiful music or be motivated by hearing President Ikeda's speech on tape. You achieve this through your years. So you are related to your Gohonzon through vocalization. This means by chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo loud, you bring forth your Buddhist life force. There is a phrase in the Gosho that states that your voice brings out Buddhahood. As long as you chant Daimoku, you bring out your Buddhahood. If you are conned or robbed, your life will burst with anger. If your life is filled with worries and suffering, you may commit suicide. If you chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, you can change your life which is filled with suffering, anger, and poverty, and overcome your problems and bring forth happiness. I visited the Kawai residence in Fukui Prefecture of Japan to give guidance at a meeting being held there around February. Mr. Kawai, who is now 51 years old, had been blind for 3 years old after contracting measles. I told him, "You have eyeballs, don't you? If you have eyes, then you can open them." This Gohonzon is the Gohonzon of the opening of the eyes. The opening of the eyes teaches us to see clearly, and yet you cannot see it. It must be because you did something against the Gohonzon and the Buddhist teachings in your past. You must have committed great slanders in the past. Ask the Gohonzon to please forgive your slanders. Express your gratitude to have had the fortune to bring forth your Gohonzon or your Buddhahood in this lifetime. Pledge to dedicate your life to Kosen Rufu. Ask the Gohonzon to allow you to see the Gohonzon, your family and others around you, so you can contribute towards Kosen Rufu. I ask him to pray in such a way. Now, let me share with you a conversation I had with another member. It's me talking, Lydia now, about the Gohansen. This member asked me, well, we are taught that we must not pray to external objects, but we are also taught to pray to the Gohansen. So we are treating the Gohansen as an external object. So this is very controversial, very confusing. So my answer to him was, the Gohansen is actually ourselves. By chanting to the Gohansen, we are chanting to ourselves. We are trying to bring forth the best in ourselves. We are looking in the mirror, and then we tell ourselves, I am a Buddha. I want to bring forth our Buddhahood. So we are talking to ourselves, not to anybody outside. I also read an article saying that if we are not happy, every day in the morning, when we look in the mirror, you just try to smile in the mirror. Do it every day, and then eventually you will smile and you'll become happy. This is the same as we are chanting to the Gohansen. We are chanting to the Gohansen, so we will raise our life state to the state of Buddhahood. And also, I think I saw somewhere an article, I think President Ikeda also said, if the bird in a cage sings, all the birds from the outside will come forth and sing together. So if we recognize that there's Buddhahood in everybody, there's Gohansen in everybody, so when we chant and bring forth our Gohansen in ourselves, we can bring forth the Gohansen in other people. And this is why we encounter a lot of Soten Senjins when we chant. Because like attracts like. If we are a Buddha, if we bring forth our Gohansen, the other people's Gohansen will come forth, and then they will be nice to us and we'll be nice to them. So this is a very simple theory. Okay, let me go on with the study material. So this member was talking about the member who could not see because of the missiles. So he asked him to pray in such a way. In the beginning of March, I received a message that he regained his sight after almost 50 years. Through his experience, the whole Fukui prefecture has revitalized itself. It is such a surprise that one person regaining his sight can have such a great impact on an entire region. Let me go on. But what I wonder about this incident is why he couldn't regain his sight sooner. He was a member who offers his own home for meetings, never missed his gongyo, and had strong faith. Yet, why wasn't he able to see sooner? It was because his attitude when doing his gongyo and daimoku was incorrect. His faith had gone off track. You must pray earnestly. Isshin yoken buzi, fuji sakyu shin myo, or single-mindedly desiring to see the Buddha. You must chant with gratitude and conviction that you will become one with the Gohansen and Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. There is no such thing as a sick or poor Buddha. Therefore, all worries will be solved. This is why you can achieve human relationship. Only human beings are able to achieve these things. In May 22nd, when I visited Okayama Culture Center, a young mother came to see me for guidance. She was concerned about her 2-year-old son, who was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy, which is a condition causing loss of muscle mass. This disease causes shrinking of the muscles until it affects even the internal organs, until it results in death. I told this mother that it was her karma to suffer over her child. On the Gohansen, it is written that things are supposed to prosper and grow. Then what is it that such a thing as shrinking happening? It must be because of the horrendous slander she committed against the Go Hansen. Pray that the two of you will work together as mother and child for Kosen Rufu. So please cure the disease. The Lotus Sutra is like a wave that spans past, present, and future. The Lotus Sutra can even help a person who has passed away to achieve enlightenment. Your child is still alive. It is naturally to transmit the Lotus Sutra to your child. There is no sin that cannot be eradicated by the Go Hansen. Your worry is not the result of your current slanders. It is a result of slanders in your past life. It is a slander from your past that you can remedy in this life. Parent and child are one. Pray earnestly. Now, recently I come across two members whose children are very, very sick. And I do hope that the parents of these children are here today to listen to this teaching. Let me go on. This mother was sort of a complainer and insisted that her son was named by President Ikeda and that he was a fortune baby. I told her that President Ikeda will name a child at a parent's request, but he cannot change your destiny. It is up to you to change your own karma and destiny. I got a message from her afterwards that her son began to run without falling after 3 days. She was shocked at how great the Go Hansen's power was and how happy she was. Her son could now play on the slide and kneel by herself. He no longer had bleeding nose when he ran. As she continued practicing, her son got better. Her husband began practicing earnestly too. For this mother, who used to complain that she was suffering and had to practice because of her son, her attitude changed 180 degrees to gratitude towards her son for helping her to practice. Her practice changed from one of complaint to a practice of gratitude. With this as a turning point, all her prayers were then answered and her wishes fulfilled. Each time I hear such experiences, I truly comprehend how great the power of the Go Hansen. To be able to receive guidance to change our life is the benefit of having the organization. In the end, what our attitude is when we face our Go Hansen is the most important thing. Now, let me share with you a very encouraging experiences that will brighten up your day, let me say so. The experience, this title is Never Give Up. Let me start to share. Quote, I started chanting during my senior year at college. My first job out of college was at a large computer company called Digital Equipment Corporation. I was young and inexperienced, but I was working on some exciting stuff in artificial intelligence. I was determined to showcase this work in any way I could because I thought it would be very useful to the company's customers. So I decided that the best way to showcase what we were doing was to do a demonstration of our work at the upcoming company trade show, which was called DEC World. DEC World was a large affair. Hundreds of thousands of people traveling from all over the world to Boston to see the latest and greatest computer hardware and software. So I chanted about doing a demo at DEC World, and then I asked some of the folks in my work group about putting the work into a demo. They laughed. DEC World had been in the planning stages for 2 years, and all the demo slots had been taken a year before the show. It was only a few weeks from the show at this point. I was discouraged and just thought, well, that was that. But I happened to casually mention the situation to my young men's division leader, Dan. The next week, he said, well, you have to do it. My reply was, well, it's not that important anyway. And based on what I have heard so far, it's just not going to happen. Dan insisted that I keep chanting about it. The next week, as I was chanting, I had an idea. There was a person at the company who was involved with Deck World trade show. He was the person there who taught me. I called him up and told him about my idea for a demo. He laughed. He talked about all the politics involved in getting demos placed in the show and all the months of planning that went into it, and I had only a few weeks. He said that there was no way. I figured that was that. But Dan called me, and when I told him the situation, he said, hey, there's no way you can give up now. So I kept chanting about it. As I was chanting, I thought about this teacher and some of the things he taught us in the management meeting. One of the things he said that always stuck with me was, even though digital is such a big company, you can always get support for doing the right thing. I called this teacher up and talked to him about how much I believed in that. He was put off balance. He danced around the topic a little bit, but then he finally said, look, if you can get your whole demo plan together within 2 days, I will consider giving you a slot. You'll need to get all your own software and hardware, your own scripts, marketing literature, and staffing for an entire month. Send me everything, then we can talk. I said, okay. But I didn't realize what I was getting into. The software we were using was experimental and very unsteady, so it would only run properly if the machines were tuned very carefully. All of the machines there were being used as the show were brand new top of the line, which I didn't have access to, and I didn't even know if the software could run on the next generation of machines. I had never planned a demo, or even marketing material or a script in my life, and getting staff for a whole month would mean taking about 10 people away from their jobs for a month, something that would require the managers to approve. Also, since the show was happening in July, many of them would have to forego their vacations. Fortunately, that conversation took place on a Thursday, so I was able to chant a whole lot over the weekend. I talked again to Dan, and he said, great, as if the whole experience was complete. I was frantic, and I was absolutely sure that this was way beyond me. I was way out of my league. But I continued to chant about it over the weekend and started putting together some documents, whatever I could think of, to write down. And I chanted every free moment I had. The software turned out to be a big issue. The way that it ran was not compatible with the new generation of machines and would take weeks of specialized expertise to tune them, and we didn't have the time nor the expertise. I was talking on the phone with someone about the changes we need to make in the software and how difficult it would be. Just then, a head popped up in the next cubicle next to mine. It was a new guy who was starting his first day of work in our group. He said, I can do that. He volunteered to do all the work, needed to update the software. Wow, I was amazed. It was Monday, and I didn't have any staff yet. I literally went from one cubicle to the next, asking people to volunteer. There were many conversations and details, but within 1 hour, I was stunned to find I had filled every slot. It would require me to work 10-hour days for several weeks, but as long as I did that, the staff plan would work. So I called my friend, the teacher, and I said, "I'm all set." He was surprised and a little troubled, I think. He had expected me to see reason and to give up. But he was a man of his word. So I sent him the crude script and marketing materials I had created and my staffing plan with all the names. He asked whether I had all the software and hardware I needed. I said that the software would be ready, but I needed some help with the hardware. He gave me some names of people to check with. I couldn't believe how fast this was all happening and was just about to celebrate victory. But no matter who I called, I couldn't find the machine I needed. The particular model was brand new and also rare. All of these machines that were manufactured had already been earmarked for the show, and they were already used up. I was completely depressed. To come so far and to hit a dead end. Once again, my friend Dan called, and again he refused to let me give up. I was so ready to throw in the towel, but he just kept quoting the Gosho and President Ikeda's guidance about not giving up. So I chanted that whole week like my life depended on it. A lot of Daimoku, and I tried to follow up on any lead I could think of to get the machine I needed. But nothing. Nobody had it. Nothing was coming up. This machine just didn't exist for me. The show was now only a few days away, and the huge conference center in Boston was already being prepared for the event. So after chanting more about it, I decided to visit the floor of the trade show as it was being built. I did the vigorous gongyo and set off for Boston early the next morning. I put on my best sport coat and tie, even though they didn't fit very well, and headed into the World Trade Center, carrying my new briefcase, which my parent had gotten me the previous Christmas, but I have never used. I marched on to the floor of the show. Well, it was more like a construction site. There were sheets covering everything, ladders and lifts with people hanging lights. I found a place on the floor where our demo world would take place, and sure enough, it was the only horizontal surface of that floor that didn't have a computer on it. Somewhere in my mind, I had hoped that there would be a mistake and someone would just drop one there. Well, it didn't happen. Now I was desperate. I was chanting to myself. One of the workers walked by, and I went up and started talking to him about the demo and how I needed a computer. This person was very particular and immediately pulled out a bunch of blueprints and notes. After going through them, he said, "Sorry, no, there's not supposed to be a computer there, and it doesn't matter anyway. If you don't have your computer set up by now, that's it. We don't have any more left." I almost fell over with disappointment. I felt silly in my dress-up clothes, in the middle of a scene of blue jeans and T-shirts and hard hats. I was sure that I had just overstepped my boundaries. I was a naive kid who didn't know how things worked. I was crushed. I headed up to the cafeteria and got myself a coffee. I couldn't believe that this was the end. As I was sitting there having my coffee and chanting to myself, my ears kept ringing with some of the quotes that Dan had read to me. So I said, "What the heck? I'll do Daimoku, Sanshou," and headed back down to the floor one more time. If I didn't find the machine, well, that was the end. As I got back to my empty table, I spotted another workman. I told him the same story about my need for a machine, and he repeated the same line about the machines being all taken. But then he said, "Let me take a look around." I sat down at my table and chanted to myself. This was the crucial moment. And sure enough, the guy came back carrying a machine, just exactly the model I needed. He said, "This is the strangest thing. I just went around the corner, and those folks over there had just decided to cancel one of their demos. They were just turning this machine off as I walked by." So I had my demonstration at Deck World. It turns out that it was the most popular demo in our demo area, and one of the most popular at the show that year. By the end of the show, they had not only moved it into a more prominent space, they had turned off 2 of the other demos in order to have more computers to show mine. The people staffing the demo had a great time and worked really hard. I spoke to hundreds of customers and salespeople, and after the show was over, I kept getting calls to do demonstrations, which led to consulting projects. These consulting projects grew larger, and I moved into the company's consulting organization, and then onto a separate consulting company. I had moved to a whole different area of work and developed new streams and found new work that I had really loved to do. I look back at this experience as a complete turning point in my career. It totally changed my direction and made everything I did later possible. Later on, I started my own company and became a CEO. But that's another story. But more important than that, through this experience, I learned to have confidence in the Go Hansen, that nothing is impossible, and to never give up. Well, I hope this experience will encourage the parents of the 2 sick children that please have confidence. Please continue to chant and never give up. Okay, so this is all I have to share today.